Reading from Chaitanya Charitamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 43. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauravata Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauravata Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauravata Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauravata Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauravata Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauravata Vrinda.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyakara Tare. Bhagyakara Tare, sorry. I'll start again. Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyakara Tare.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyakara Tare.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Natira pravahe yena kashta lage tire.
Natira praveke yena kastamagitire.
Natira pravahe yena kashta lage tare.
Natira praveke yena kastamagitire.
Samsara brahmati kona bhagye kaha tare.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Natira pravahe yena kashta lage tire.
Natira praveke yena kastamagitire.
Samsara brahmate kona bhagye keha tare.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Natira pravahe yena kashta lage tire.
Natira praveke yena kastamagitire.
Okay, others.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Samsara brahmati kona bhagye keha tare.
Natira pravahe yena Natira praveke yena kastamagitire. Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Natira praveha kiyena kashti lage tire.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare. Natira praveke yena kastamagitire.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Samsara Brahmati Kona Bhagyate Katare.
Natira pravahe yena kastamagitire.
Natira praveha yena kashta lage tire. Samsara brahmati. Samsara brahmati.
Samsara Brahmati,
Wandering throughout the universe.
wandering throughout the universe.
Kona bhagye.
By
By some good fortune.
some good fortune.
Keha tare.
Kehatare,
Someone crosses the ocean of nescience.
someone crosses the ocean of essence.
Nadira pravahe.
Natira pravahe,
In the flow of the river.
in the flow of the river.
Yena.
Yena,
Just as.
just as.
Kashta.
Kashta,
Wood.
wood.
Lage.
Lage,
Sticks.
sticks.
Tire.
Tire,
On the bank.
on the bank.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The conditioned souls are wandering throughout the different planets of the universe, entering various species of life. By good fortune, one of these souls may somehow or other be delivered from the ocean of nescience, just as one of the many big logs in the flowing river may by chance reach the bank. The conditioned souls, please repeat, are wandering throughout the different planets of the universe, entering various species of life. By good fortune, one of these souls may somehow or other be delivered from the ocean of nescience, just as one of the many big logs in the flowing river may by chance reach the bank. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are unlimited conditioned souls who are bereft of the Lord Krishna's service. Not knowing how to cross the ocean of nescience, they are scattered by the waves of time and tide. However, some are fortunate to contact devotees, and by this contact, they are delivered from the ocean of nescience, just as a log floating down a river accidentally washes upon the bank. Jai. Om Gana Tamarandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmanatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminitti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nevasesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhattarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just read the translation again. The conditioned souls are wandering throughout the different planets of the universe, entering various species of life. By good fortune, one of these souls may somehow or other be delivered from the ocean of nescience, just as one of the many big logs in the flowing river may by chance reach the bank. So it's very interesting. This describes the mercy of the Vaishnavas. In fact, it's not exactly by chance. It is by the good fortune of the Vaishnavas that devotees are reawakened. In fact, everyone is a devotee of the Lord. They just forgot. And because of that forgetfulness, there is immense suffering in this material world. And the materialists, they try and make so many arrangements to alleviate this suffering. But because they are using material solutions, they're trying to use material solutions, then these material solutions, they just create another material problem further down the line. And so, for millions of years, the living entities are suffering like crazy in this material. There is immense suffering. We just have to look around the world today to see. And the root cause of all this suffering is simply they forgot Krishna. So we're being given this gift. It's a great gift of Krishna consciousness. It is the only real gift in this material world. Any kind of material gift, it has some reaction in the future. But a spiritual gift, there is benefit for the giver and the receiver. Mundane or regular food distribution, for instance, we can look at this as an example of a material gift, something in the material world. So there are many organizations that are distributing food all over this planet, trying to alleviate the suffering of the living entities. But because it is not karma-free food, it is not prasadam, then later at some point, the persons receiving that food will have to give something back. And the persons who gave the food will have to take birth again to receive that gift from that person. And so both good and bad karma, they bind us to this material world. And as far as I can see, the only tradition out of the many religious traditions, actually it's a science, it's not a religion. The science of Krishna consciousness, from what I can see, is the only philosophy which actually teaches people how to become karma free. Otherwise, one cannot escape from the cycle of birth and death. And so we're being given this great gift, and we're following in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if we examine how the greatest devotees in the spiritual world, if we examine what are they doing, we have the gopis. They're the greatest devotees of the Lord. But amongst the gopis, there is a kind of gopi called a manjari. So these are young serving maids. And they serve the other gopis. In fact, they assist Purnamasi. Purnamasi, she organizes all the Lilas of Krishna and the gopis. She's the organizer. And the Manjari gopis, they are assisting like this. And they have no desire to be with Krishna. Their only desire is Dasa to Das, is to serve the other gopis by bringing them to Krishna. They assist by making all these tasteful arrangements for the other gopis and Radha to be with Krishna. And they're completely selfless in this endeavor. So it's considered a very high level of devotion. So if we examine our parampara, we find we have Rupa Goswami, we have many other great acharyas. And in their spiritual form, they are manjaris. Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. So what can we conclude from this? The selfless mood of the manjaris to bring the other gopis to Krishna, that is extended into this material world as the Sankirtan movement, to selflessly bring others to Krishna. So the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is incomprehensible. We can't even begin to imagine how great that mercy is. We have this opportunity that we can directly serve the manjaris through this parampara. We have no qualification, or I have practically no qualification, but still we are able to do some little service for the manjaris indirectly through the parampara. So this is very profound understanding. I'm just cutting to the chase, because this is where we need to see how we can assist the great Vaishnavas in the parampara. That mercy is so great that if we go on Harinam and some drunken person who is not following anything, he may be eating meat, he's not following any kind of Vaishnava principles. He may tag on to the end of the Harinam and he's going, Krishna, Hare Krishna, and he's doing. So that's considered devotional service. He's able, just the fallen souls of this material world can directly serve the manjaris. This is the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it manifests as the Yuga Dharma. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came here to give the Yuga Dharma, amongst many other personal reasons, but for our concern, it is the Yuga Dharma which he came to give. And the Yuga Dharma, he delineated it in eight verses. He compacted it all down. Like we have mission statements and things, we look at all our mission and we look at this and do that and we make a little mission statement. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did that. He gave the Sikshastikam prayers. And they are a compact version. Everything about everything we need to know about devotional service is compacted into those verses. And great Vaishnavas can unpack them and write many books and give many instructions and teachings from those. But the first one gives the very basic, the very core understanding of the mission of Krishna consciousness. And that is Chaito Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagina Vapanam Shreya Kaurava Chandrika Vitaranam Vijayavadhu Jivanam. So, it is stating there that the heart becomes cleansed. Chaito Darpana. Chaito is the heart, Darpana cleansing. That the heart becomes cleansed by performing Harinam, by chanting the holy name. So, Srila Prabhupada, he gives a definition, a few translations there, and also in Nectar of Devotion, he translates or gives the understanding that chanting Hare Krishna, he calls it Harinam, and then he gives a definition of Harinam. Harinam is going out for the benefit of others. So this is the point. From what I understand, this chanting of japa, the morning program, reading the books, everything, it's all to bring us to that point of giving it to others. It's only half the story. The full story is when we go out and we give Krishna to others. This is very important to understand that. And to me, it seems quite easy to understand. For instance, if you have a glass and you start filling it with water, at some point, and you carry on filling it, at some point it will overflow. So we can look on the morning program and all our sadhana, we can look on it like that we're filling ourselves up with Krishna. So when we get to that point, we have to fill ourselves up with Krishna to the point where we can give it to others. So this is the understanding of the Yuga Dharma, that by practicing this giving to others, then we become purified ourselves. It's not that we have to do something separate. It is the means and the end. By performing the Yuga Dharma, by giving it to others, we become purified. It's the fastest way to become purified, is by giving Krishna to others. And there's three great gifts that we have been given, that we can give to others. There's books, prasadam, and harinam. These three great gifts. And then we need an infrastructure, which is the temples, a supporting infrastructure for the three great gifts. Because when someone gets the gift, and they need to come further, they need to be trained, they need to be cared for, and taught how to give the gift to others, to pass it on. In the material world, someone gives us a gift, a material gift. Someone gives us £100, and we think, oh, I've been given this gift. I so much like to give some of it to others. So you give some to others. But your original gift, it becomes depleted. But when we speak of spiritual gifts, then the gift just gets bigger. It's unlimited. The more we give Krishna to others, the more Krishna manifests in our own hearts. So it's a very simple understanding. Maybe too simple. I'm not a great philosopher. But it's a simple understanding. And of the three great gifts, books, Prashadam and Harinam. The book distribution, the giving of books, is considered the highest. It is the most effective, the most powerful way of spreading the Yuga Dharma. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he coined this phrase, the Brihat Mridanga, the great Mridanga. He would say that when we go on Harinam, it will go a few blocks, but when we distribute books, they can go all over the world. So it's interesting. The first book which was printed was the Bible in Germany in 1534, about 500 years ago. And they printed 184 copies of the Bible, the Gutenberg Press. And of those 140 copies, or I can't remember the exact number, 140, 180 copies, there is 40 still in existence, 500 years later. So they're existing in museums, private collections, and some churches. Not all of them are complete, some are partial complete. But it gives this example that the hardback book has the potential to last for at least 500 years. So that's how powerful this book distribution is. That we can give out a book, and that book can carry on preaching for 500 years after we leave our body. So it's interesting to try and look at these different things, what potential they have. The book distribution, Srila Prabhupada really pushed it. There are many stories about that. I've got a few notes I made. So many devotees, or many people, they question, is this Krishna consciousness, this book distribution, is it actually changing the world? Is it actually doing anything? But if you look around a little bit, you can see there are things going on. For instance, in 1972, I think it was 72, there was a war between Pakistan and India. And Srila Prabhupada was in India at the time, and he was reading all the newspapers. And this is in the Lila, this story. And this war, it finished in 2 weeks. It was a very quick war. And Srila Prabhupada, he said that this war was stopped by his disciples chanting in India. So at that time, he only had 20 disciples in India, and they were doing Harinam in Calcutta. And he said that war was stopped by that. So this is the potency of the holy name. There are other evidences. In 1986, I was in America, and in the Detroit temple I met up with an old English devotee. He was a TP at the manor in 77, 78. His name was Bhumadev Prabhu. And he'd met this devotee, an Indian devotee, and this Indian devotee was coming in the line of Raj Brahmins. So these are the Brahmins who they instruct kings, they give advice to kings. And the Raj Brahmins, they come from the family of Bhrigu Muni. So there's one time Bhrigu Muni, he wanted to find out who was the most powerful, whether it was Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or Lord Vishnu. So I can't remember the exact story, but he insulted Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma got angry or something, and then Lord Shiva, the same thing. Lord Shiva became angry at him. And then he came to Lord Vishnu, he kicked him on the chest. And Lord Vishnu, he grabbed hold of Bhrigu Muni's foot and he started to massage it. And he said, "My dear Bhrigu Muni, I hope you haven't hurt your foot." So he's massaging his foot like that. And Bhrigu Muni could understand that Lord Vishnu, he is the most powerful. He's the greatest. because he didn't take any offence. But Lakshmi did. So Lakshmi, she then cursed the Brahmins that they would always be poor. There's that curse. Because my wife doesn't accept that excuse, but the curse is there. And I don't think it's in the Bhagavatam, but whenever there's a curse, there's a positive side to it. And so Lakshmi gave Bhrigu Muni what's called the Bhrigu Yantra. And it's a way of doing astrology so that the Brahmins could at least survive. So the Bhrigu Yantra, if you know, a yantra is like a metal plate, and it has various inscriptions on it. So the Bhrigu Yantra has the 12 houses of the what do you call it? Zodiac, yeah, zodiac, that's the word. So what you do, you have these little stones which represent the different planets, different sized stones, and you hold them above the yantra and you ask your question, and you drop these stones and they fall on the yantra in the different houses. And someone who is an astrologer, he can make a reading from that. You see. So being America, Bumadev had got a half-hour radio show every week, and he'd have people phoning in and asking questions to the Bhrigu Yantra, and they would throw the stones, and give their answers. But then what was happening? They were finding that the yantra wasn't working. In 1986, 50% of the population of the world was meant to have died from AIDS. So this was a government prediction, that's what was meant to have happened. A World Health Organization or whatever. Their prediction was by 1986, half the population of the world should have died of AIDS. It didn't happen. The Bhrigu Yantra was also saying that. It didn't happen. And then the Bhrigu Yantra, there was meant to be a forest fire, was meant to have engulfed San Francisco. This is the Bhrigu Yantra who also said that. But it didn't happen. There was a forest fire, but it came to the edge of San Francisco. It didn't really do anything. And so this Raj Brahmin, he was getting really upset. What's going on? The yantra has never been wrong before. I can't understand this. The yantra is not working. What's happened? So Bumadev, he took this question to some of our sannyasis at the time, leading philosophers in our movement. And their conclusion was that the Sankirtan movement is diminishing the karma of the world. There's no other explanation for that. We also find that statement in Nectar of Devotion, that if you clap your hands in front of the deities, then these lines, they don't have the same meaning. Those lines are changed. The lines are the same, but they don't have the same meaning anymore, because we're diminishing our karma. By performing devotional service, we're diminishing our karma, we're diminishing the karma of the world. And so, there's an interesting story there. There are many stories. Book distribution is the most potent form of the Yuga Dharma. And Srila Prabhupada, he pushed book distribution in a big way. Because it is a great gift. It is the greatest welfare activity in this material world. There's a few quotes here. I don't know if anybody remembers this book from a long time ago. We used to read it all the time. It's from 1977. They only printed a couple of thousand copies. So Srila Prabhupada, these are quotes from Bhagavatam and other books from Prabhupada's purports. Preaching Krishna Katha is the greatest missionary activity. Krishna Katha is the only remedy for all people of the world, because it can situate one in pure consciousness of the self and liberate one from material bondage. To preach Krishna Katha all over the world, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, is the greatest missionary activity, and all sensible men and women of the world may join in this great movement started by Lord Chaitanya. There are many quotes here. It's a very interesting book. Preaching the knowledge of the living entity's spiritual existence is the highest welfare work. The living entity must preach this knowledge of self-realization after perfecting himself and understanding his own position as an eternal servant of Krishna. Preaching this is showing real mercy to living entities. Other types of humanitarian work may be temporarily beneficial for the body, but because a living entity is spirit soul, ultimately one can show him real mercy only by revealing knowledge of his spiritual existence. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jivara Svarubhaya Krishna Nitya Das. Every living entity is constitutionally a servant of Krishna. One should know this fact perfectly and should preach it to the mass of people. So it's interesting how this book distribution, it actually started by accident, in fact. Srila Prabhupada wanted books to be distributed, but no one knew what to do. There's also another little book from the past. You remember that one? Anybody? There's only me and at Oxygen remember these books. So in 1970, Srila Prabhupada had printed Krishna book, and he got some advance copies at the San Francisco Rath Yatra. And then they had, the books came, and Prabhupada wanted them distributed. No one knew what to do. So here we find the story of how book distribution actually began. I'll just find this here. So they were trying to advertise and sell books in bookshops and different things. They're having no success. Then in 1971, this is from the Satsrup Maharaj's book here. This history of book distribution in the early years. So in 1971, something significant happened, a kind of accidental discovery. One day, while coming home from a chanting party in downtown San Francisco, two brahmacharis stopped their car for a refill at a local gas station. They happened to have a few copies of Krishna book with them, and when the attendant came to get the money for the gas, one of the devotees showed him the book. The attendant was interested, and both devotees began preaching on the glories of Krishna consciousness. When they suggested he take the book as payment for the gas, he agreed. Astonished at what had happened, and inspired at their success, the two brahmacharis, Buddhimanta and Premanava, went out the next day with several Krishna books and stood in front of a grocery store. After a few hours, it happened again. This time they sold 2 books. Keshava, the San Francisco temple president, phoned the GBC supervisor, Karandar, in Los Angeles and told him what had happened. Keshava described it as miraculous, and Karandar encouraged him to make further experiments. The San Francisco devotees soon organized half a dozen men going door to door and showing the books to people in their homes. When Buddhimanta began selling as many as 5 a day, the devotees in other temples, especially Los Angeles, San Diego, and Denver, began to follow his example. And whoever tried it and sold a book became caught up in a euphoric excitement. The reader may become amused hearing these book-selling activities described in glowing terms, as if they were something highly unusual. Many a large business has started out small, and door-to-door book selling is not uncommon. Yet, the experience and testimonies of devotees taking part in this book distribution describe a special taste, distinct from the happiness young men ordinarily might experience by stumbling upon a sales technique and finding themselves on the verge of making a lot of money. The difference between the excitement of starting an ordinary business and the taste of learning how to distribute Krishna conscious books is that the devotee's book distribution is devotional service to Krishna and can thus produce a transcendental ecstasy not possible even at the height of material happiness. Ordinary business and Krishna conscious book distribution are as different as material life is from spiritual life. If one attempts to observe spiritual life from the material point of view, he will be unable to understand it. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati described the academic's attempt to understand Krishna consciousness as an attempt to taste honey by licking the outside of the bottle. According to Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion, the special taste of happiness in Krishna consciousness is that it is eternal. The taste of serving Krishna is the original eternal happiness of every living being. Therefore, it alone brings complete satisfaction to the self. Jai. So, any questions, discussion?
In the book, Preaching is the Essence, it opens up one of the early stories is between Vasudeva and Lord Chaitanya. Vasudeva is asking if he could stay in material perfection. Then Lord Chaitanya just sends everybody in the entire universe back to Godhead. And then reoccupies all the bodies with fresh genius from that. So I just wondered, is the longest you can stay in the material world one day of Brahma? Because that's how often that would take place, right?
No idea. Does anyone else can answer this question? At the end of the day, for me anyway, Krishna consciousness, maybe I'm oversimplistic with it, but to me it's very simple. We've been given a gift and we give it to others, and what happens to us will happen anyway. Maybe that's too simple. But any person, any reasonable person who's been given the highest gift in the entire spiritual and material worlds would feel some indebtedness. And the only way we can mitigate that debt, we can never pay it back, but the only way we can mitigate it is to give that gift to others. And book distribution is the highest form of being able to do that. Because these books can last thousands, hundreds of years. Every book is directly a small deity of Krishna. And as we know, deities have a Lila. And so all these books that we give out, they have a Lila. They may not be for that person that we gave them to. We hear many stories that someone was given a book by, I got given a book by some friends. There's many stories at Oxygen.
It was just a reflection, really. One time we were doing a lot of books in Scotland, and when we were loading up the books, they would come on a truck, and the truck would be just full from one end to the other, big flatbed truck, and then we would form a chain. And I always used to notice when we were passing the books to each other, everyone used to start getting intoxicated just from touching the books. And after that, we'd be there for hours, loading them in. And toward the end, we were just laughing all the time. We just couldn't stop laughing. We didn't even know what we were laughing at. We were just experiencing so much, excitement and purification from just coming in contact with such a large volume of books.
This is one of the techniques of book distribution, you put the book in the person's hand because they're touching Krishna. Directly through your arm, all the way back up the Parampara is Krishna at the other end. You touch that book to that person, that they're immediately touching Krishna, and that's extreme mercy. What ordinary person can touch Krishna? You come to the temple, ordinary person, you can't touch Krishna. You can't go on the altar and touch Krishna. But yet you can go and give this book and they can touch Krishna. They're getting that mercy. They have no qualification. But yet they get that mercy of touching Krishna. So that's one of the sales techniques that we use. You bring the book up like that, and You see, I do like, see, look, the hand came up immediately, see? Do you see that? That's the technique. The hand, see, again, look, see? The hand came up. Immediately you put the book near the person's hand, the hand touches. Like that.
A couple of years ago, Caritamrta gave an amazing Sankirtan class. He said that there's 3 waves of auspiciousness that come from Sankirtan. The first is Mahapunya, which means that you're guaranteed a human birth just by touching the book or coming in contact with Prashadam. And then Swasti Aina is that the devotee becomes a committed sadhaka, he starts the journey, the auspicious journey. And then Shubham is that the soul goes back to Godhead. So he was saying it's like the first wave is just everybody gets a book and everyone's guaranteed a human form of life.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's anyway, there's many more things we can say, but I think Prashadam is calling. So I guess we're finished now. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. Krishna.